Now, Dave, we saw you here in Nowra last year, and you perhaps were one of the first people prayed for.
Actually,
almost this time this year ago on a Friday night. Now, you were in a lot of pain. What was that from?
I'd had a 9-level spinal fusion operation from T10 vertebrae to S1, and I woke up out of the surgery with the most intense pins and needles you can imagine. I actually said earlier tonight when I was talking to John that I'm finding it very hard to recall exactly how it felt. It's just like it's been blocked from my mind.
I remember you sharing last year that you actually had to have a tent set up around you in bed because you could not bear the weight of even a sheet on you.
That's correct.
And how long were you in that crippling pain?
I was in that from about 5 months. And it was only the Thursday night before I met you guys that I was lying on the lounge and God said, go and take the frame out. And Penny, my wife, took the frame out and I had the worst night's sleep you could imagine. I remember that. And but from the Friday night when I met you guys and got my healing, I've not used it since. It's actually out in the garage in about 4 pieces.
So obviously you were in pain because you then went in to have the operation. So you had been in pain. That's why you had the spinal fusion.
Yes,
but you were in worse pain after the operation.
I was taking 200 milligrams of morphine a day just to mope around the house.
For how long?
From June 2012, and I was operated on the 1st of February 2013. And then I saw you guys on the 7th or the 6th of July 2013, and I was taking double amounts of, double the recommended dose of gabapentin, and it was breakthrough pain was extraordinary. The tingling and the pain was not helped until I saw.
And so you didn't have a quality of life because you had to shuffle. You were on sticks when you came.
Yes.
Yeah. And what had caused that damage in your spine to begin with?
It was a misdiagnosis from back in 1986. I was in the New South Wales Police Service. The injury wasn't diagnosed correctly. There was no CAT scans or MRIs back in those days. They thought I'd torn or strained muscles in my back, the ligaments, and they said to keep the weight off, stay fit, and everything will eventually sort itself out. So for the next 10 years, I led a totally inappropriate lifestyle. I was playing golf, I was riding a push bike 300 kilometres a fortnight, I was temping bowling, I was doing everything that, as it turned out, when the correct diagnosis was made, I shouldn't have been doing anything like that. Mm-hmm. So I had my first back surgery in 1997. It was a 2-level spinal fusion. Then I was on a slippery slope. I had a 3-level spinal fusion in 1998. And then since 2002, we'd been watching the fused area separate from at level 2-3 above where I had been operated on. It was just starting to slip further and further apart to the point where it was about 12 millimetres out of alignment. And I had to have another surgery. I just couldn't keep going the way I was going. I was taking more and more morphine, as I said, just to mope around the house. I was losing weight. I went from 94 kilograms in 2012 when I turned 50, and 2 or 3 weeks after my surgery, they weighed me and I was 72 kilograms. And I'm now a healthy 81. Mm-hmm. I get on a Pilates reformer most days, not as often as I should, but I was also prayed over for increased strength in my legs, which my physiotherapist noticed almost immediately. And as I said, I bought a Pilates reformer, and I love getting on it. And I'm just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I'm still noticing now what I couldn't do a month ago.
Yeah.
I'm just getting better and better and better.
So when John prayed for you this time a year and 1 week ago, what did you experience when he was praying for you? Do you remember?
That first time, it was, I've described it just like being separated or melting or like a Venetian blind going down between me and the pins and needles. I could honestly, back then, I could honestly imagine the pins and needles were sitting out about a foot from the hip, from the legs out. It was just, even walking through water, doing hydrotherapy was like having razor blades passing over my skin all the time. And, but for my wife, but for your ministry, I think I might have even contemplated at some stage running into a tree at very high speed in a car. That's how bad it was. I just didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I was just in a box. I couldn't break out of it. But for John, your ministry, yourself, and Narra City Church, I'm not even in a tunnel anymore.
Yeah, and so you've got your life back, and you've been
Absolutely.
having holidays, and well, you can sleep normally now,
Yes,
and
I can sleep
hug your
normally.
wife.
I can hug my wife. We went to Tasmania in May to see our second grandchild, 6 weeks after she was born, which was something I hadn't contemplated being able to do. We did 4,000 kilometres of driving, which I didn't contemplate I'd ever be able to cope with in that short period of time. I lost an argument to sell my fishing boat because I didn't think I would ever enjoy it or climb up on it or anything like that. Now enjoy going out fishing with Penny when the weather permits.
Yeah. And tonight you had more of a healing. Your left shoulder
Yes,
was
it's
in
just
pain.
it just seems to be a whole left side issue that I've had. I went and saw my doctor about 2 weeks ago, and I explained, pushing up all the time off this side because it's not as strong, pulling up and into cars, and I was just starting to feel worn out and really painful, restriction, and if John hadn't mentioned the words frozen shoulder, I probably would have just been going over and asking for a quiet prayer at the end of the main part of the formal part of the session, but I don't know. God works in mysterious ways. I just got up and walked out.
Yeah, and then your shoulder just freed up, and then you windmilled it around.
Yes,
and it's
it was
fine.
great. It's unreal.
Awesome. Yeah.
Unreal.
And Penny, what difference has it made to your life now to have your husband healed and be able to do things that normal people can do?
David, it's wonderful. It's truly wonderful. It's changed our lives completely. We were living a nightmare before that, and David's options were a wheelchair if he didn't have the surgery. The risk during the surgery was a wheelchair, and it was more than 10-hour surgery, so that brings grave risks as well. The nerve pain that he experienced from the nerve damage during the surgery, we had never thought of, wasn't explained
As a consequence,
as a
possible.
consequence.
Yeah.
So that was something completely and utterly new that I understand a little bit about nerve pain from my own experience, but I couldn't even begin to imagine what it was like for David. But I knew how bad it was. I cared for him. But after that night, different, completely new lives for both of us.
Yeah, wonderful. Because you'd had to become his carer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was very lucky that I have an excellent manager who allowed me to work from home so that I could be there for David, because David had 9 falls prior to that healing. He's never had one since. John prayed over me that night as well. About 3 weeks after that healing, David stumbled and I held my breath, but he recovered, and I knew from that moment on, I had known from that night on that everything was different, our lives were different, that Jesus had healed David. But when David recovered himself, that cemented for me that I didn't need to be 24/7 caring for David anymore. I had complete and utter faith that God would keep him upright and he'd never fall again.
Yeah.
And he never has.
Awesome. Thanks
So
for sharing.
I went back to work
Yeah.
and left him to his own devices pretty much, and he's just come on in leaps and bounds.
Yeah, wonderful.
It is, it's awesome.
It's a
amazing.
really powerful testimony. Yeah, thanks for sharing
Thank
it.
you.
Just to see the whole picture of how it's not just his life, but
David
it affected
laid on
yours.
the ground in Tasmania and had the 3-year-old grandson play with him like normal grandchildren do with their grandparents.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful.
Yeah,
just
wonderful.
to see.
Well, thank you for sharing. Bless you both.
Oh, bless you guys.
Through you, I can do anything. I can do all things. 'Cause it's you who gives me strength.